Aye.
Okay, motion carried. Any disclosure of conflict of interest from the planning board members? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on. We have the January 23rd planning board meeting minutes. I would like a motion to approve those minutes, please. Louis and Angela? Okay, any comments, questions, corrections, errors, omissions? Okay. You're in favor of moving those, Ed?
Aye.
Okay. Okay, we've come to the part of our meeting where we hear from the public. So planning board values your input. Registered speakers are allotted 5 minutes to present their views during the presentation. Planning board members will not engage in a dialogue or debate, but may ask questions afterwards. To ensure a productive and respectful discussion, speakers are encouraged to maintain a professional tone, avoid personal attack, and focus on matters within the jurisdiction of the municipal government. While a speaker is presenting, all others in attendance must remain quiet and seated to allow the speaker to be heard clearly. The other thing I will say is that in order for the live stream to work, you need to have the microphone on. And so if you turn the microphone on when you come to speak and state your name and where you're from clearly, that would be helpful. So this evening we're going to start with Janice Macbeth. Welcome.
Good evening, can you hear me?
Try again to the mic.
Hello?
I did turn on.
Hello?
Okay, you got it. Yep.
Good evening. My name is Janice Macbeth, and I am from Victoria Cross. I have submitted a request for proposal tonight to speak about item 6.2, application for development that's on the agenda, which is the expansion of 2 or more dormitories at the Jeebus compound in Brudenell. The size of this compound expansion is approximately 88,000 square feet. I am disappointed that this application is being presented tonight due to the impending investigation by IRAC, called by Minister Myers. And I would have thought that the municipality would have suggested to the applicant that perhaps now is not an appropriate time to hear the application for expansion. I'm sorry to you, the unelected citizen members of the planning board, who have been put in the front line once again. The weight of this decision, coupled with the size and scope of a 1,000-year project, is well beyond your volunteer mandate. I am also disappointed that the GWBI group has shown indifference to community concerns that have been raised publicly at council meetings since August of 2020. In addition to the present investigation by the province, by IRAC, it appears the master plan timeline has precedence over island concerns. And the timing and size of this application is, in my opinion, a bold move. In any community, there needs to be communication and cooperation among residents, a willingness to work together and to live amongst one another. To date, there has yet to be an open public meeting hosted by the province or the town council in conjunction with the GWBI group to present surveys, reports, environmental assessments, or show plans or drawings for the future development. This lack of information sharing, community engagement, and transparency will continue to cause mistrust, division, and fear in our community. My request tonight is to deny the application by the GWBI group until the IRAC investigation is completed, or host a well-advertised meeting in an appropriately sized location to allow the applicant to present the master plan to all of the public in an effort to show the plans for future development that will begin and continue in their private institutional zone where this expansion is located. After the public meeting, the town can gather public input and make a decision regarding expansion at that time. In summary, I'll refer to the Planning Act, which outlines the duties of the Planning Board. Part 3, Municipal Planning says, the Planning Board has the following powers and duties: to investigate and survey the physical, social, economic conditions in relation to the development of a municipality. And I'll end with quoting my email to Council on September 6, 2020. This is the most important development our Three Rivers community will ever decide on. Land use planning is important to all of us. Show us the plan. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, next we have Aaron Lamb.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Erin Lamb, and I'm from Three Rivers. To begin, I would like to ask someone to calculate for me on the board here the following measurements into square feet. 3,568 square meters into square feet. Nobody wants to calculate that? Okay. 4,645 square meters into square feet. So I would like to ask why these two measurements on the agenda for item 6.2, development application 14.25 DEP, are listed in square meters, whereas agenda item number 6.1, development application 181.24 DEP is listed in square feet. Is this to deceive the reader as a quick scan over it like I did? I completely assumed that it was square feet until it was pointed out that it was not. I hope that you would recall my previous request for consistency in regards to the measurements. We live in Canada, therefore I feel measurements should all be metric first and then bracketed into imperial for those who cannot do the quick math conversion. To garner trust, transparency requires consistency. This all being said, I would ask that the planning board consider removing item 6.2 from the agenda this evening. I feel a development with a combined square footage of approximately 88,000 square feet be brought to the public for review. This area is already becoming heavily developed, and I fail to see the need for more development at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next we have Charlie Hicken.
Good evening. My name is Charlie and I live in Route 17. I wish to address the development application for 805 Brunel Point Road. Number 1, I feel there should be a moratorium on all development applications by the Buddhist organizations until IRAC completes its investigation and releases it to the public. Number 2, there should be a full environmental assessment done before this is approved. Number 3, there should be a public meeting held with full architectural plans available and long-term plans for this complete property. Number 4, associated services should be defined. Number 5, institutional zone. Dormitories is not a permitted use in this zone. I personally requested it be added to the bylaw revisions, but like all other suggestions from the public, it was ignored. Number 6, If all of these suggestions are ignored, be assured there will be an IRAC appeal on this application. Now, I've only got one other comment. I noticed the agenda has been revised since what was published. I think that's very disingenuous.
What was the revision?
Recommendation was added. Are there any questions? Thank you.
Just before we go on, I'd like to acknowledge the fact that we're having some trouble with the live stream, and so right now there is no live streaming happening. We will. It's being worked on. Do you want me to wait for a bit, or?
You get it back up, I'll speak again.
Pardon?
If you get it back up, I'll speak again.
So will I. So will we all.
Is the audio working on it? It might be, I don't know. It's showing audio thing, but it's going to just watch.
So is the audio working but no picture?
I think the audio might be working, but I'm not.
We can run the audio. Sorry about this, folks. Let's just see what we can do about it.
If you restart your computer, you can do it. I can find it, but I can.
Is this the same thing you had prior? Last time I had you done? And the hotel was still that. Didn't have a pool, but everything was access to the public pool. Right. And I went in there, it was like Sussex.
Man-made? Man-made? No.
It's a Goldilocks here. It's 5 times the size of the not anywhere near so you go there, see like this.
So the audio is working, it shows like this. Shows like you're doing
The audio is working exactly
it's just gonna stop when but there's definitely there. So what's the computer doing now? Do you know? It's updated? Okay.
Give it a couple of minutes. It's kind of important. But if you have the audio, it is.
Let's see what happens here. Was it working earlier today?
It was actually like on the day, which I can ask you to do it. I guess I don't
I wish I was reaching to that.
Is that the only laptop that the app is on? For the camera?
What?
I think it's people are.
Well, we'll just see what happens here. Like, this one day, she'll just take us out. Hold tight.
Nobody's moving.
Control technology.
And finally they done. The bus is taking some of their folks to the hotel.
And that's why,
There are 2 or 3 service product areas for socializing.
I'm so looking at it.
We stayed in a place called the East which is a couple blocks.
I know, cut off after,
Oh, it is?
I don't know.
but if we get our live stream working,
And again, this is all. Even though.
You know that thing about a walkie-talkie?
No, so. Their side, review, American.
All right, fingers crossed. I'm okay. Go back here. All right, is it gonna work? Is it gonna work?
Are you reloading?
Yeah. It worked earlier today.
And did we have audio throughout?
We had audio of what I said, but not from the podium, so,
Well, let him speak.
yeah.
If that's not working.
It's the camera, so it has some of the audio.
So we have audio from this?
We had audio from me and no picture, but we had no audio, so if we get this back up, we'll speak again. We'll speak again.
They should speak from here.
Right, but we'll see if the camera starts working and everything else works.
That's the chance.
The Airbnb or she owns them. And we're staying in a place called
sorry, it's not working.
Some charts. Not too much.
Go to second.
Well, I have to do everything on YouTube.
It's so good.
Yeah.
Just like here.
Time to get some water in there. Time to get water. Work the same school. Yeah.
If you got this drug.
I'm sorry. You know how the battery, everyone I have to, I have to turn around.
Does your work out stay well?
They were quite.
I was afraid of driving home in the snow, but thank God, looks like I'll be driving home in the rain. I'm just telling John, it's President Trump, for a guy who doesn't drink, he's sure driving a lot of us to it.
That's live stream.
I don't care.
Just so we're clear, that was not John Van Dyke, that was Sean Taylor.
I think it's just terrible all the bad things people say about him, and I wish John would stop. My son shares my sense of humor.
Thank you for your patience, everybody. So we have the live stream working now with the picture. I'm not gonna start at the beginning again because we do have the audio from what I said, but if we could ask Janice Macbeth to come back up so that we have this on record, and we'll go through the speakers again. Thank you for your patience.
Is this working?
It is, it's on.
Okay. Well, good evening. My name is Janice Macbeth and I'm from Victoria Cross. I have submitted a request for proposal to speak to item 6.2, application for development on the agenda, which is regarding the expansion of 2 or more dormitories at the Jeebus compound in Brudenell. The size of this compound expansion is approximately 88,000 square feet. I am disappointed that this application is being presented tonight due to the impending investigation by IRAC, called by Minister Stephen Myers. And I would have thought that the municipality would have suggested to the applicant that perhaps now is not an appropriate time to hear the application for expansion. I'm sorry to the unelected citizen members of the planning board that have been put in the front line once again. The weight of this decision, coupled with the size and scope of this 1,000-year project, is well beyond your volunteer mandate. I am also disappointed that the GWBI group has shown indifference to community concerns that have been raised publicly at council meetings since August of 2020, in addition to the present investigation provincially by IRAC. It appears the master plan timeline has precedence over island concerns. And timing and the size of this application is, in my opinion, a bold move by the GWBI group. In any community, there needs to be communication and cooperation among residents and a willingness to work together and to live amongst one another. To date, there has yet to be an open public meeting hosted by the province or the town council in conjunction with the GWBI group to prevent surveys, reports, environmental assessments, or show plans and drawings for the future. This lack of information sharing, community engagement, and transparency will continue to cause mistrust, division, and fear in our community. My request tonight is for you to deny the application until the IRAC investigation is completed, or host a well-advertised meeting in an appropriately sized location to allow the applicant to present the master plan to the public in an effort to show the plans for their future development in the private institutional zone where the expansion is being located. After the public meeting, the town can gather public input and make a decision regarding expansion at that time. In summary, I'll refer to the Planning Act, which outlines the duties of the Planning Board. Part 3, Municipal Planning states that the Planning Board has the following powers and duties. To investigate and survey the physical, social, and economic conditions in relation to the development of a municipality. Please consider all issues when voting on this application. I'll end with quoting from my email to council on September 6, 2020, which is almost 5 years ago. This is the most important development our Three Rivers community will ever decide on. Land use planning is important to us all. Show us the plans. Thank you very much.
Ann, can I say something? Could some of you stay off your phone when people are speaking? It's rude.
It was really rattling. I could,
There's
everyone's
both of you are
chewing
back and
gum
forth, back and
whatever.
forth.
Yeah.
Have some respect, we do.
Is it working? 'Cause it should.
I think the CAO was checking to see if the live feed was working, and to me, that seems appropriate.
No, because it was either Facebook or something up front and put his phone down.
I was checking to see the last feed.
Yeah, you're right.
Thank you, John. And are we working?
Is it working?
I don't think so.
Okay. Okay, so at this point, can't do anything about the technology. We're going to move on with the meeting. We don't have the live feed working. Do you? It's working there? What's,
It's not online.
it's not online.
No.
Are you is it recording what you have? Does this record it on here, Deandra?
I don't know how to ask
Do you know if it records it?
It's
Sorry?
live. It's saying live, live. Like if you like it, it's saying like I don't know.
Okay, here, put it on here.
Can we postpone this?
We don't need live feed.
We have the video. I could see if they record it here.
All right, we're gonna carry on. We can't do anything about the live feed right now, so we're going to ask Mary Murmis to come up and speak.
People can't get in here, I can't see them.
Somebody live streaming on Facebook.
Good evening, the Mary Murmis, Baldwin Road.
Chris Murmis, same residence.
Okay, same house, yeah. We sent an email the evening of the 25th, so Tuesday evening, to Stephen Myers, who's our MLA, Corey Deagle, MLA from Montague Kilmuir, and John Van Dyke, our councillor for Three Rivers. So we have the letter, but we're just going to read the 3 paragraphs that apply to you people. And then there are different questions, so we'll do the 5 minutes, and then I'll ask if you have the answer to the question, or if the nuns behind us have the answer to the question, because the presentation is coming later. Town of Three Rivers Planning Board now has a development permit application from the Buddhist nuns, GWBI, for 2 huge dormitories. One building is the equivalent of 0.88 acres, and the other is the equivalent of 1.15 acres. Compare that to the Cavendish Farms Wellness Center. That building is a speck over 1 acre. The application also says associated services and site work. We are assuming parking is in this section. We agree this is a matter for the planning board and then the municipal council. So first question to be answered later, how many parking spots are required? One question is, will the nuns be giving an extensive presentation on Thursday the 27th, which is tonight? If not, then there's a problem. Another question is, how many students are they making room for and how many support staff? Are there legal requirements for how much space an individual student needs? Are there fire department regulations that determine the number of people living in a building? The nuns have said before that when their other permit application a few years ago was turned down, that they needed to engage with the community. We hope that on Thursday evening, now, there is ample opportunity for dialogue between the public and the nuns. Will there be this opportunity? Another question is, are these dormitories part of an even larger plan? These would be planning board and ultimately council issues. For both the municipal and provincial governments, a question is, these buildings are being proposed to be built on land that is currently under a government-ordered review to be conducted by IRAC. How can you rightly build on land that is currently being investigated? Another question, what happens if other development applications come in that are proposed to be built on land that is under investigation? When the IRAC report comes out, it is possible that land will have to be divested. We would say that is a big problem if you have a new build. Do you as the planning board see this as a potential problem? Okay, so we can go back to the questions now. Under my 5 minutes? Yep, 2. All right, first question, how many parking spots are required? Can you answer or wait till the nuns give their presentation?
We will answer your questions when we're dealing with the application.
Okay. All right, are they giving an extensive presentation tonight?
The nuns will do a presentation tonight.
Okay, and then, so the other question, how many students, how many support staff, much legal requirement for space and individual student needs? So same answer, you'll take care of that when the nuns do their presentation?
Some of your questions will be answered and some of them are not relevant to this application.
Is there going to be an opportunity for the public and the nuns to dialogue tonight?
No, there isn't.
So we'll listen to the nuns then, see if this is part of a larger plan. And then I don't know if you can say yes or no or something to think about. Do you as the planning board see this as a potential problem, building on land that's going to be investigated?
So we will address that when we come to this issue on the agenda.
All right,
Okay, the first name, Stephen Myers, is our MLA. So we asked and came to our house and we told him all the problems we have with what land that's being purchased and that. So later on, he says, I have no idea. I'd like for him to come and look me in the eye and say, you don't know what's going on there. That's enough said.
okay, we'll wait for the rest of the meeting.
Thank you. Okay, our next speaker is Shane McDonald.
Check it. Good evening, Planning Board. My name is Shane McDonald. I'm a resident of Three Rivers. I'm here tonight to talk about the request for decision I made in regards to the GWBI campus and the need for a new environmental impact assessment. With the recent investigation launched by IRAC that was ordered by Minister Stephen Myers. On February 12th, Minister Myers was interviewed in front of our town hall, just out here, by the CDC, where he said, I've ordered IRAC to not only investigate the land holdings of the Buddhist group, but to connect the dots of the groups. We have a new lands protection legislation in 2022, and it will be put to the test in this investigation on direct and indirect control. As Mr. Myers stated, it is the direct and indirect component of this investigation that is not only queuing up the investigation, it is the same component that is causing the fear of local residents of Three Rivers regarding the future plans of the group and who controls them. Now, we are aware that we are not dealing with two individual monasteries. It is also the same argument that has made the Three Rivers Council call on the government to resolve this apparent provincial issues. It is because of the fear and concern coupled with no transparency by the Buddhist group that we should, as concerned residents and members of council, together we should also call for a new environmental impact assessment to show the inconsistencies of the first environmental impact assessment from 2017-2018. During the new environmental impact assessment, it will also give the Buddhist group an opportunity to present their true plans and the effect on the community, not just the people who live on Delaware Road in Brudenell. There has never been an open forum to present their true plans and answer questions by the entire community of Three Rivers. As we are all aware, the Buddhists are more interested in one-on-one private meetings. At what point do we realize they are too big for our community? On page 3 of the May 2018 Environmental Impact Assessment, as stated by the GWBI group, and I quote, "The best analogy for what is proposed by GWBI at the Brudenell is a small religious learning center." This is not the case. When they claim 200,000 square feet to start, and a further 450,000 square feet to bring the total of 650,000 square feet on a development in a rural setting. This is not the passive blend into nature, small religious learning center they claim, with walking trails and public access to the shore. I would like to thank the planning board for my 5 minutes this evening, and in closing by saying I would like to give each of our councilors 5 minutes at the next council meeting to tell us how they feel about the Buddhist group's activities and the future plans. Do they have any concerns or questions that align with their constituents? And remember, the last time there was an environmental impact assessment, we were not Three Rivers. Thank you. And as outlined when they give their presentation for the master plan, this is part of the document that was actually posed for the 2017-2018 environmental assessment. It doesn't show any of the buildings that they've built for their storage sheds and various different components. And it does outline these walking trails and stuff, but we haven't seen any of that stuff happen. Just gates and guardhouses. So thank you very much for your time. And if anybody's interested in learning that, about what was in that official plan or that environmental impact assessment, just go on the government website. Everything is there and outlined clear as day. Please read it. It is very important. Thank you.
Thank you, Shane. Okay, now we have Heather Chang to speak to us, please. Welcome.
Good evening, councilors, planning board members, and residents of Three Rivers. Thank you for giving us a chance to speak today. I came to PEI in 2011, so PEI has been my home for over 13 years. It was during this time that I learned Buddhism, I practiced my faith, and also I became more fluent in English so that I can talk to you all today. We've heard that the concerns expressed by everyone here tonight, and what has come out really clearly is that everyone's deep concern for the land, community, as well as wanting to give the best for the generations to come. And so, we welcome constructive criticism. We also welcome the investigation recently called by Minister Myers. We'll do our best to support IRAC so they can deliver a report that can resolve the concerns of our land holdings. Only fact-based findings can create a space for healthy discussions, and let us leave behind conspiracy theories and speculations that create distrust and fragmentation of our community. Speculations such as the Buddhist community owns 17,000 acres. Over the years, we have repeatedly asked the individuals and groups who have stated this number how they got to this number, but no one has provided evidence or calculations. The only reason we're building a monastery here in PEI is because we're racing against time to preserve Tibetan Buddhism, a language, culture, and religion which is rapidly fading due to political tensions. In 1959, His Holiness the Dalai Lama fled from Tibet to exile in India, and around this time, many monasteries were burned along with Buddhist texts. What does this mean? It means that Buddhism, a 2,500 years old ancient wisdom, a way of life, is rapidly vanishing from our world. We need a safe place to carry out our preservation work. Here in Canada, in PEI, we found a place that is politically stable, values religious freedom, and respects human rights. To see this ancient wisdom remain for generations to come, this is what we live for. Regarding today's development permit in question, the land for these buildings was bought by Great Wisdom Buddhist Institute in 2016, and this was approved by ERIC. And just for records, we have not bought land in almost 6 years. To date, GWI owns roughly 670 acres of land. As per the law, in 2018, we had a public environmental impact assessment meeting at Roma where we presented a detailed long-term big picture plan. Perhaps not everyone knew of this. As per the law, we are here today to submit our building permit application for the third and fourth living quarters as outlined in 2018 long-term plan we had presented. We hope that the local contractor working on our project can continue their work. So in Canada, a country bound by the rule of law, where we have paid taxes, where you have followed all regulations, we believe we deserve basic protection, rights and respect afforded by the law, just like what every single one of you expects as citizens and residents. So we live in PEI, we're part of PEI, and together with our community of Three Rivers, we'll look hard for the future of Three Rivers. Thank you for listening today.
Thank you, Heather. Could we turn the mic off at the podium, please? Okay, so we've come to the end of the presentations for this evening, and we're going to move to item 6 on our agenda and deal with the 6.1 is an application for a change of use. And when I find my right page, I will read it. Okay. This application seeks approval for the conversion of a vacant commercial space into a children's daycare facility and the creation of an external play area at 574 Main Street, Montague. The key planning issues are provision of a daycare facility in alignment with the criteria of the official plan, and compliance with the development bylaw, including submission requirements and operational standards, and balancing the need for daycare services with the suitability of the site. The building is located at the intersection of Main and High Streets, where traffic congestion and limited parking create notable challenges for this constrained site. The proposals involve the change of use of the existing building to facilitate the daycare element, while the cafe and apartments are retained. In response, the applicant has engaged a licensed surveyor to prepare a site layout plan to illustrate how the challenges of balancing existing uses with the proposed daycare can be suitably overcome. The proposal is recommended for approval subject to permit conditions which include a permit valid for 12 months, changes, revisions to be submitted for approval, completion and implementation of a development agreement for approval by council, and approved plans. And so, therefore, the recommendation is that Planning Board recommend to Mayor and Council to approve the proposed change of use to a children's daycare and construction of a 750 square foot external play area at 574 Main Street, Montague, PID 196162, 196170, 196154, subject to the following conditions. Condition 1, the permit is valid for 12 months from the date of issue. 2, any proposed changes or revisions must be submitted to the development officer for approval. Condition 3, the permit is subject to the completion of a development agreement by the town's lawyer, and the applicant's and town's costs shall be borne by the applicant. The terms of the agreement are recommended to include, but not limited to, the following: snow clearing, physical barrier placed between any parking space that abuts the child's play area, functionality of all spaces, including those situated on sloping land, and any further landscaping work that may be required, including space demarcation. A signed letter of compliance by a licensed PEI land surveyor or engineer that all terms and conditions of the development agreement have been met. The development agreement, when drafted, shall be presented to the town council for approval. And condition 4 is the approved plans, the application form dated August 27th, 2024, and the site layout plan dated February 11th, 2025. Could I have a mover and a seconder to put this on the floor? Angela? And second, Louis? All right, discussion. And you'll need to put your microphones on when you're speaking, so the camera can follow you. Go ahead, Lee.
There seems to be some issues with the parking lot itself. And there's different grades. One spot is higher and the other is lower. And we're hoping that the developer or the applicant would come and explain how they're going to address that issue. So are we going to get any more information on this before we're asked to make a determination, make a decision?
You want to put your mic off and I'll get one of our planning board gentlemen to respond? Go ahead, Patrick.
So our applicant wasn't able to make it today, but he has submitted an engineer design plan. The reason we have to enter into a development agreement is because the plan doesn't match up with the conditions that are existing now. So what we're trying to achieve with this development agreement is what he's submitted is what we'll get in.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. Oh, go ahead, Sean.
So this matter's been before us a couple of times. If the conditions are met, will the applicant be in full compliance with the development bylaw?
Thank you, Chair, I can cover that. The answer is yes, subject to those conditions and execution of the development agreement and the final sign-off by the engineer to ensure that that's all been delivered.
Just in response to that, if that's the case, then I'm in favor of it going forward, but I think it's probably the worst spot for doing this I've ever seen. And so with that caveat, and knowing that if they're in compliance, I have to vote for it, that would be I want to put that on the record.
Thank you. Anybody else want to speak on this? Okay.
So, my question was, you show traffic flow for going in and going out. 2 drop-off spots for a car. I know when I was taking Margaret to Montessori, there's at least 7 cars probably waiting in a daycare center to go and drop off. So 2 spots, in my opinion, is never going to be enough. And unless you're going to go one-way traffic, I don't know how he's going to go and do anything as far as manipulation of that property. I guess if he's going to go and eliminate where his cafe spot is blocking the streets between Clark's and the cafe, he can have a continuous one way, but I don't know how he's going to do it. On the same idea as Sean, if there's an agreement in there to go and take care of everything, but I don't know how he's going to do snow removal. If he's got 1 centimeter or 2 feet of snow, he's got to clear all that snow out of that property before he can do anything. But I'll give the power to him if he can level up the grounds and do it. But I hope this agreement will be very, very thorough for that property, because it just does not seem like it's going to work.
Any comments from anybody else? Ed?
This application that's been tabled once already, right?
It has, yes.
Yeah. So, certainly like to hear from the applicant again on how he's gonna address some of these issues before we make a decision on it.
Is it the will of planning board that we table this again and ask the applicant to come in and speak to us?
I'm sorry, Chair. As far as condition 3 is concerned, in terms of the agreement to the recommended to include but not limited to, we have fairly clearly defined in terms of what it is, and we're going to be drawing upon legal counsel in order to ensure that these things are met. So I would say we proceed in terms of where we are, and we draw these things up and have these things in place. And if we're not able to meet these things, then this is null and void anyway, it's my understanding.
Thank you,
Sorry.
Just following on that, I'm in favor of kicking this up to council with the concerns that have been expressed.
Sure, it's all fine. Okay, all in favor of moving this on to council?
Aye.
Okay? We've moved it unanimously ahead. Okay, next item on our agenda is 6.2. So the application concerns the construction of a dormitory 3 and dormitory 4, as well as associated service and site work at the Great Wisdom Buddhist Institute campus in Brudenell. The key planning issues associated with this proposal are the expansion of the existing campus, particularly in relation to the environment, infrastructure, and landscape, and the additional material considerations including the master plan of the GWBI development and related environmental impact assessment. The proposed expansion of the site with the construction of dormitory 3 and 4 aligns with the town of Three Rivers official plan and development bylaw. The development meets key development plan requirements, including landscape provision, service standards, and zoning considerations, ensuring a sensible and balanced extension of the campus in this next phase of construction. The unique campus design contributes to the Institute's long-term vision and broader objectives of the development plan, with a large-scale development that responsibly addresses a range of planning issues. Overall, the proposal demonstrates compliance with the official plan and bylaw policies and warrants a recommendation for approval. And so, the town of Three Rivers official, Therefore, the development and officer recommends, the planning board recommend to mayor and council to approve the construction of a dormitory 3 and dormitory 4, as well as associated service and site work at the Great Wisdom Buddhist Institute, 805 Brudenell Road. Okay, I'm gonna go back and read that again. The planning board recommend to mayor and council to approve the construction of dormitory 3 at 3,568 square meters and dormitory 4 at 4,645 square meters, as well as associated services and site work at the Great Wisdom Buddhist Institute, 805 Brudenell Point Road, PID 1107382, subject to the following conditions. Condition 1, the permit is valid for 12 months from the date of issue. Condition 2, any proposed changes or revisions must be submitted to the town for approval. Condition 3, for the duration of the project, check dams, sediment pond, and silt controls are to be maintained. And condition 4, plans, condition drawings A100, A200, A201, A202, A300, C101, C102, and completed application form dated February 11th, 2025. Could I have a motion to put this on the floor, please? From Cameron, a second? Sean? Okay. So discussion. Go ahead.
There seems to be some issues with the development.
Can you
with the
just
size
put your mic a little
I'm
closer?
sorry.
Yeah.
There seems to be an issue with the size specs on the dormitories. I wonder if Lee could explain if those concerns are valid, or are we deciding on something that's not actually correct?
Thank you, Chair. Hopefully I can clear it up a little bit. Let's start with the drawing units and the units for the report. Sometimes we use square feet, sometimes we use feet, sometimes we use square meters, sometimes we use meters. The bylaw generally uses meters as its preferred method of measuring. We do too occasionally, depending on the nature of what's being presented. Sometimes all our information is in one unit and we convert to the other, vice versa. Provided the conversions are accurate and true, that is just standard practice. So with that in mind, so if we look at those meter numbers, those are the cumulative floor areas over the multiple floors. In terms of footprint, if there's a desire to hear it in square feet, we're looking at just over 29,000 square feet for the two new parts of the building, described as dormitory 3 and 4. We know these are an extension to the existing monastery, and it will form one singular quad-arranged building, as is set out in your plans. Now, point taken with the units. I think Pat and I can try to mix our units a little better for you in the reports. Like I said, we started out favoring meters because that's where the development plan puts us. But what you see before you is correct.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Lee.
Go ahead.
Okay, so a point of clarification. The footprint would be the actual space it's taking up on the ground, but because it's more than one floor, the actual square footage as you would measure a normal house or square meterage goes up by the number of floors. Is that correct?
Chair 3, that's absolutely correct.
Do we have any idea of how many people these buildings can accommodate, and whether or not the existing septic system in place or to be constructed will support that number?
Do you have that? Okay. Could you talk about the update from the environmental assessment?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I've made copious notes of the various questions we had. I imagine all will come out in the discussion tonight. So before this proposal came in, when we were made aware it was coming in, we asked that the proposal be put forward to the Department of Environment. Environmental impact assessments come under the Environment Protection Regulations, and it was presented to them in case there were any amendments or fresh submissions required. And the plain answer to that is no, there weren't. So the consent, the EIA authorization is still valid and it still applies to this project. So that should hopefully deal with that. Chair, in terms of septics and the like, that particular infrastructure again is signed off by provincial authorities. We are not the authority for wastewater, and the indications I have is that the current system is more than capable of dealing with this addition to the existing development, and further upgrades, if ever are required, would be through provincial submissions, although they are shown on your plan package in terms of their location and where they are.
Thank you.
As a point of clarity for all here, as I'm looking at the package, I'm seeing a variety of things, like meditation areas, I'm seeing areas for classrooms, I'm seeing a variety of things that are associated with this. One of the things that was brought up here in terms of living arrangements and bedrooms, and do we have a clear idea of how many bedrooms we're talking about in terms of these two new structures?
Do you have that information, Lee, or shall we ask Heather or Mark?
Well, Madam Chair, we did do some rough calculations in terms of bed space. We know that there's roughly 120 residents a dorm.
Okay.
So if that helps that, and there would be, as many of us who took the tour in the summer can see, that there's multiple residents per room within the dorm.
Thank you, Chair, that's all, that will suffice, that's all I need.
So while you're looking for the other information, can we address the issue of parking? Question about whether there would be enough parking?
We can certainly speak to that, Chair. Obviously the site is quite sizable and there are multiple parking areas on that site. We make an oversupply of parking at the moment of about 425 spaces. This proposal demands 221. It's also worth noting, even though we have an oversupply of parking, that the residents of the monastery don't individually own cars each. They carpool, they have buses for transport purposes. So parking demand in a traditional bylaw sense is more than catered for, although I wouldn't expect you would ever see that car park full.
Thank you. Any more questions?
Couple of references, is this phase 2 or phase 3 of the development? I see there's, in the extra proposal, there's expansion of the sewer system and the water system to go and accommodate the new dormitories. There's also a mention of added propane storage and be relocated. Do you know where those plans are lying? And one diagram has it moved and the other diagram doesn't, so I don't know. It's probably incidentals. As far as the fire department reference goes, into the courtyard, there's only one exterior entrance into that courtyard. It's ground level, other than going through the buildings. I'm assuming the fire marshal's office would already looked at this anyway, but I would recommend that they would have a secondary entrance into that courtyard that does not involve going through the buildings to get to it.
Thank you, Chair. So sort of to try to answer those questions in reverse. Yes, the access to the courtyard is actually a design change for the quad. So you've got that overcroft which allows fire access underneath. That is a direct result of those talks with the authorities to improve that firefighting access. So we've seen that as a design change. You'll see that in the elevations themselves. So that's part of those engagements that you'll see happen in large projects like this. So I'm confident in those respects. And again, as we know, matters of fire fall under building code, but there's no particular issue here. We're just aware of the impact on the design from that. There are lots of supporting bits of ancillary infrastructure like the propane tanks, etc. And again, we don't have regulations in terms of the bylaw controlling their siting and positioning, etc. So they fall under other controls. I think that pretty much covered all your concerns there. Did I miss any, Kat?
Yes. The phase. The phase.
Oh, phasing, yes. So we know from reading the master plan. I think it's probably worth explaining a little bit about master plans, just briefly, Chair, where time is passing. The master plan is a guiding, overarching concept document, and the master plan is produced for the purposes of the environmental impact assessment. And that feeds into what is the impact of this when it's fully developed out. Heard some time scales, and we know that this proposal has been impacted with the impacts of COVID have pushed things around, as with many building projects, and the phasing of it is variable. I think we're roughly in a second/third phase of development. We know we've seen multiple proposals for this too in terms of applications. Each one of those could be a phase, but it's indicative of how the project will roll out over time. And heaven forbid we have another pandemic, you'll see time slippages for that project, as you will with all the others. So you will see minor changes to a project as it rolls out, and every time we see a new proposal come through to us, we would then again refer that back to the provincial authorities and ask that question. Are we looking at a fresh reassessment of this? Currently the case is not. So the project before you is well within the conditional requirements of the first EIA approval. So timing-wise, there may be some slippage, and that's common for lots of building projects, so I wouldn't be too concerned on that.
Answers your questions? So there's a couple of things. Sorry, Sean? Yep.
One last thing, the commentators talked about the review that's being done by IRAC of its role and purview in the acquisition of land by these people and others. But IRAC's, my understanding of it, and of course I'm just going from what I used to know, is about land acquisition and ownership. It doesn't really have much to do with the planning and development issues that are faced by this board. So I'm just wondering if the community has a clear idea of how those two separate issues can be conflated and why they shouldn't.
So yeah, that was one of the things I was going to address. Over the past, since it came forward that we were going to be having this, this application was coming forward, one of the questions was, as it was pointed out, Stephen Myers did request that IRAC investigate the land holdings of the Buddhist communities. Fine, if that's what, if that's what Minister Myers wants to do, that's great. I think there's, they're not the only organization in PEI that maybe we should investigate, but that's for a separate time. This parcel of land is 319 acres, and even if we go down the road and say, this organization owns too much land and they had to divest of it, that hasn't happened in the province, but if they did, then this parcel is 319 acres, and I have no problem saying that these issues are separate issues. And we'll let the investigation with IRAC play out, but this is a separate issue. I did mean, and I'm at fault for doing this, but either Heather Chang or maybe Mark Steele from 9 Yards, if one of you could address one of the issues that's come up, and that's walking trails. In the past, there was a commitment to have some public walking trails, and I've been asked for a clarification on that. So if maybe one of you could come to the mic and talk about that, I would appreciate it. Turn the mic on. Thank you.
As we mentioned too, those were mentioned in the master plan document. The master plan document is something that is conceptual and it's phased. So although those were shown, they have not been done yet. They are not under the current work, but they're still in the master plan.
Appreciate the answer. I just want you to be aware of the fact that when you say something to the public that it's going to happen, that we need to sort of see that that is going to happen at some point, and because that's important. Okay, I'm just checking this note. Okay. Louis, do you have anything else you would like to add? Questions?
No, I think I'm fine, Madam Chair.
Okay. Angela?
Good.
Cameron?
Good.
Sean?
Good. Fine.
So, are we ready to move this forward to council?
Aye.
Everybody in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the motion is carried unanimously to move it ahead to council, and now I need a motion for an adjournment.
So moved.
From John, second by Louis. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I saw you back there. How are you?
It was John audio. It said before there was audio and there was no video, and the end was video and there was no audio.